Hey guys, welcome back, or welcome if you're new to my channel. I'm Maggie and this is Maggie May Crochet. My hands are pretty icky looking and scratched up. I have recently rescued a baby squirrel and he is getting pretty wild. He's chewing up my hooks as I'm trying to crochet and my hands are all scratched up. Not that he's fighting me or trying to hurt me. He just can't help it. He's got sharp little nails that are meant to grab onto trees, and he doesn't understand, I think, that my skin is not tree bark. So anyway, they look pretty rough right now. Alrighty, so to make our hat, you will need a size H or 5mm crochet hook, a couple of stitch markers, and a number 4 worsted weight yarn. I'm using I Love This yarn from Hobby Lobby. This is in the color Linen. Now I am going to go step by step on this tutorial. I want to make this a tutorial that is suitable for people who are beginner crocheters. So if you are more advanced, you can speed along if you like. If you are brand new, you might want to slow the video down. Also, I will put some links to some beginner tutorials for these stitches in the description below if you are a brand new crocheter. All right, so to begin, we need to create a chain, and we're going to first start with our slip knot to place the yarn on our hook. Our chain needs to be 42 chains long. So to make a chain, we're going to take our hook, wrap it around our yarn, and pull the yarn through the loop that's on your hook. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 40, 41, and 42. Okay, so our chain is 42 chains long. Now what we need to do is start placing our stitches into this chain. Now some people like to place their stitches right into the front of their chain. I prefer to turn my chain over and place my stitches into these back bumps. I just find that it gives a more finished look to the edge of my work. All right, so we need to place 29 stitches into our chain. I'm going to turn my work over. To make a single crochet, we're going to place our hook into our chain, into the second chain from our hook. I'll turn it over so you can see. Here's 1, here's 2, turning it over, here's my bump, placing my hook into that bump, wrapping the yarn around my hook and pulling it through that bump. So now I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. Okay, that's our first single crochet. Now I'm going to put a stitch marker in that first stitch. You're going to find that if you use stitch markers for the first stitch of your rows, they're going to be much easier to find as you get going. They can sometimes get kind of tight or pulled down into your work and it's really hard to see them, so this really helps pull them out and you can find that first stitch much easier. All right, so we're going to make 29 single crochets going back the other way for row 1. This was our first. Here's 2. Whoops, lost it. Got it back on there again. There we go. I'll start that over for you. That's our second single crochet. Placing our hook into the bump, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops that were on your hook. Placing my hook into my chain, yarn over, pulling it through, yarn over, pulling through the 2 loops that are on my hook. Okay, one more time. Now with all the talking that I'm doing, I do lose count, so let me show you how you can count your single crochets if you happen to lose your space too. All right, so we said that this stitch marker was our first, and there are V's that you'll notice being formed on our top of our stitches here. You just count your V's. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've made 5 stitches. I need 29, so I will meet you at our 29th stitch. Okay, this is my 29th single crochet. Now what I'm going to do is place a slip stitch into the very next chain. All right, so the slip stitch is made by putting my hook into the chain, yarning over, pulling the yarn through the chain, but then right away pulling it straight through the loop on my hook, okay? And that's a slip stitch. So we should have 11 chains left over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so we didn't complete the row. That's why this is called a short row beanie. So what's going to happen now is we're going to keep going back and forth, making our stitches, and each row we're going to pick up another stitch through here. So we're going to be progressively lengthening our work. This is another hat that I started a bit ago to kind of show you how this progresses, okay? So we've just completed our slip stitch here at the end of our work. Now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work over. Now we need to work our stitches back to the beginning. As we're doing this, we're going to be placing our stitches into the back loop only now. Okay, so when you turn your work up so that you can see the top of your V's, you have a back loop and a front loop. We're going to be placing our stitches into the back loop, the one that's farthest away from us. So you'll take your hook, you're going to place it into that back loop, yarn over, pull it through. 2 loops are on our hook, and we're going to yarn over and pull through to make our first single crochet in the back loop only. Now I want to mark this because, again, sometimes the stitches are difficult to see, especially if you're a beginner. So that's going to mark our first stitch. This time we're going to go all the way to the end. We don't even need to count because we're going to go to the very beginning, the first stitch. Now when you get there, we're going to do something a little different. Rather than place our stitches into the back loop only, we're going to place our stitches, or our last stitch, into both loops, okay? The reason that I do this at this end only is because it helps give you a more finished edge. I think that it gives you a more even edge, and it kind of gives you a stronger edge. So the stitches that will be the rim of our hat are going to be going through both loops of our work instead of just the back loop. Okay, so I will get back with you when we get to that end. You are just placing single crochets into the back loop only all the way down, and this is row 2. Okay, I'm coming up on my first stitch, the one with the stitch marker in it. This is where I'm going to place my single crochet into both loops of this stitch. So you've got your V there. I'm placing my hook under both bars of that V, making my single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now we're going to be placing single crochets into the back loop only until we get to this stitch marker. When we get here, I will meet you and explain what we're going to do to bring ourselves back. Okay, so single crochet into the back loop, marking my stitch with a stitch marker, find that V, single crochets into the back loop, all the way back to our stitch marker. I will meet you there. All right, I am just about to my stitch marker here. I'll remove it to place my last single crochet into the back loop of this row. Now what we need to do is start bringing our work along this chain. So our next stitch will be a single crochet into the next empty chain. So looking at my work, I have a chain right here. I'm going to place my hook into the back bump of this chain, yarn over, and I'm going to make a single crochet. Okay? Then in the next stitch, I'm going to do a slip stitch. Placing my hook into that bump, yarn over, pull through the chain, pull through the loop on my hook. Chain one and turn my work. Okay? So I brought this piece out to kind of show you what we're working on. We are making our rows going back and forth like this each time, coming along. This is our beginning chain right here. I'm coming along this chain and I'm picking up stitches each time to build our hat this way. We're adding rows. Okay, so we're picking up our chain as we go, building it all along here. Okay, you kind of see what's happening. We've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We are here right now. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we've come to the end where our stitch marker was. We came down, picked up a chain with a single crochet, went to the next chain and did a slip stitch. We chained one. Now we're going to turn the work. So we're placing our first single crochet in the back loop only into this next stitch, the very first stitch there, with a single crochet. Next single crochet, always in the back loop only. From here out, we're making all of our stitches into the back loop only, except the very last stitch of our row here. Okay, that goes under both. Okay, so continue placing your single crochets into the back loop only until you reach your stitch marker, and I will meet you there. I just realized I forgot to put my stitch marker in my first stitch for you here, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about as far as placing your stitch marker in. It's really kind of tough to see your work down here as it starts to pull together. So this is my first single crochet, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. You'll want to make sure you do that before you start working your way back, or you may not be able to find that very easily. Okay, sorry about that. We're continuing on. I'll meet you at my blue stitch marker here. Okay, almost to our edge or the stitch marker here. I'm going to remove it, place a single crochet under both loops for this last stitch, chain one and turn my work. Now we're working our way back to this stitch marker, placing my first single crochet into the back loop of that first stitch, remembered my stitch marker this time, and I'm going to continue single crochets into the back loop only until I reach the stitch marker for this row. Alrighty, coming up on the end of row 5, I'm removing my stitch marker so I can place this final single crochet into the back loop. Now I'm at the end, so I want to pick up more chains. So to pick up my next chain, I'm going to drop down to the next available chain, and I'm going to place a single crochet into it. And after that single crochet, I'm going to place a slip stitch into the following chain. Okay. Then I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and I'm working my way back to the edge of my hat. I'm going to place a single crochet into the back loop of that first stitch. Place my stitch marker into that first stitch and continue on with single crochets into the back loop only until I get to my stitch marker or the edge of my hat, where I'll be placing a single crochet into both loops for that very last stitch of, this will be row 6. Alrighty, I will meet you at the end of row 6. Okie dokie, coming up on my last single crochet of row 6, taking out my stitch marker, and remember that this stitch goes into both loops of that stitch. Okay, there's my single crochet, chain 1, and turn my work. This is the beginning of row 7. We are just going to keep repeating what we've been doing all along. Single crochet into the back loop of that first stitch, placing my stitch marker, single crochets into the back loop until I reach this stitch marker. Once we hit that stitch marker, we're going to drop down to pick up another chain with a single crochet in the back loop only. We're going to the stitch right next to it or right after it and doing a slip stitch, chaining 1, turning our work, and coming all the way back again. We're just going to continue this until we've completed 14 rows total. That's all this is you're just making these sections of 14 rows, one after the other, and they kind of just connect and build on each other like this until we have 6 sections of 14 rows, and then we're going to sew it together. That's the plan. Okay, so I'm at the end, removing my stitch marker, going into my back loop for my single crochet, dropping down to the chain below, picking up the next chain and making a single crochet, going to the chain next to it with a slip stitch, chain 1, turning my work. I'm going to place my first single crochet into the back loop of the next stitch, mark it, work my way back to my stitch marker where I'll place a single crochet into both loops of the stitch that the stitch marker is in. Okay. Okie dokie, we are coming up on the end of row 8. I removed my stitch marker. The place that the stitch marker is in is where we're going to place our single crochet under both loops. Okay, chain 1, turn our work. So now we're starting on row 9. Let me show you quickly how you can count your rows if you want to keep track of them. The way to count your rows, you can just look at your work, and each peak and valley is one row. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we are working on row 9 now. working our way back. So I got to the end, I chained one. I'm going to be placing my first stitch into the back loop and placing my stitch marker here. So the only time we're placing our stitches under both loops is when we finish this row that will be our edge, okay? Working back, it's just into the back loop again. So single crochets into the back loop only. This is row 9. We'll be making a total of 14 rows just like this before we change things up again, okay? So for reference, this is what we've got going on right now, okay? We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We are here in our hat, okay? I will meet you at our stitch marker. Okay, removing my stitch marker for this last single crochet in the back loop. Dropping down to pick up a chain with a single crochet to the next chain there, right? Okay, now we slip stitch into the following. Chain 1 and turn our work. Single crochet into the first stitch, back loop, mark it, and working my way back to my other stitch marker to the beginning of our work. Okay, so this would be row 10. Alrighty, row 11. Okay, I just put my single crochet into both loops of that last stitch. Chained 1, turn my work. Now I'm doing my single crochets on my way back into the back loop only. Until I reach my stitch marker. When I get here, I'm going to drop down, pick up the next chain with a single crochet, pick up the next chain with a slip stitch, chain 1, turn my work and work my way back. Okay, we're ready to drop down to the next chain. We've only got a couple stitches left here. We're going to make our single crochet into the chain, going into the next chain with a slip stitch, chain 1 and turn our work. Going into the first stitch, back loop, single crochet, mark it with our stitch marker. Single crochet back loop only to the end. When we get to our first stitch here, we're going to place our single crochet into both loops. Okay, coming to the end of row 12. This is my edge, so single crochet into both loops. Chain 1, turn my work, single crochet into the back loop of that first stitch, place my stitch marker, and I'm going to work my way to my stitch marker here. This is row 13. I will meet you at the stitch marker to show you what we'll do next. It's just a tiny bit different, and I will see you there. Okay, coming up on the end of row 13, and what we're going to find is that there's only one chain left. All along we've been picking up 2 chains, but we don't have 2 left, so we are going to just, let me place my last stitch here, drop down to this, what was our first chain, last now, and we're going to make a single crochet in that last stitch, okay? So there isn't one left to do a slip stitch, so we just end on that single crochet. Chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to work our way back. And that will give us 14 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and this will be 14 when we come back to this end here. Okay, see you there. Okay, my last stitch goes under both loops, and we have just completed our 14th row for our first section of our hat. So this hat is going to be made up of 6 sections of 14 rows. Line this up so you can see. All right, this is one section. There are 6 sections just like this to make the width of our hat. So what we need to do to start our next section, I'll twist it here, sorry, is we're going to pretty much start all over again. So I've completed my 14th row, chain 1, turn my work. Now to start another section, what we need to do is just begin from the beginning. We started with placing 29 single crochets into the back loop only down our chain. So we're going to do that again. I'm going to place 29 single crochets into the back loop only, marking my stitch. That was our first one. 2, 3, 28, and 29. Okay, we're going to go into the next stitch and place a slip stitch. Chain 1 and turn our work. What we're going to be doing now is the same thing we just did. I'm going to work my way back for the second round of this next section, work my way this way for row 3. I'm going to be single crocheting into the next stitch, slip stitching into the next. This essentially is acting like our chain did, okay? We're going to be picking up stitches with each row back and forth. All right, so that was our 29th single crochet into the back loop only. I dropped down to pick up a slip stitch, chained 1, turned my work, single crochet into the back loop only, and placing my stitch marker. So we are just going to keep doing what we've done all along. We're going to make 14 more rows for this section, and we'll make 6 total sections of 14 rows in the same manner. You will do this for a total of 6 times. You can see here is my first section. If you follow along, you can find the second section. Here's the third section, fourth section, fifth section, and this is my sixth section. Oops, I just pulled out some of those stitches. Better fix that real quick. Okay, so I will let you add it. Keep on going until you have 6 sections of 14 rows. Your hat will look something like this, and I will show you how to join your hat together. Okay, so now that you've got 6 sections of 14 rows, we're going to join our hat. Okay, just place my last single crochet into both loops of my first stitch there. So I'm going to finish off by yarning over and pulling my yarn through. Now I want to give myself a really long tail because I'm going to be using it to sew up this edge. So I find that if you cut your yarn about 3 times the length that you want to stitch, that's usually long enough. Okay. So you'll need a darning needle. Oops, let me pull my yarn through first, okay, so we knot it off. All right, so once you've finished off your stitches, you're going to thread your needle and join our sides. So line up your stitches the best that you can. I've got all my V's facing up at me. I'm going to just kind of come over across this other side here to even up my edge. Now you can use any method of join that you prefer. I'll just kind of do the one that I like here. I'm going to go underneath both loops of my V on this side, and then I'm going to come to the loop of the V that's closest to me on this side. Again, coming to the loop that's closest to me on this side, and then I'm going under both loops of the V on the side farthest from me. Both loops of this V, loop closest to me on this one. Okay, we're just going to continue this all the way down to the end. Okay, when you get to the top of your hat, we need to sew the circle, the hole closed. So what we want to do is just kind of place some stitches around the top so we can cinch it, okay? We're just going to kind of go in and out a few of these stitches here, right along the edge. And then we'll kind of cinch it like a purse here in just a minute. Okay. So we've kind of just looped our yarn through there. I'm going to pull it, and that's going to cinch up the top of our hat. It's going to close that little opening. Now what I'm going to do is take my tail from our beginning chain, and I'm going to knot this. That's going to help kind of just bring our ends together nice. Now before I cut this, I want to share some options with you. If you wanted to add a pom-pom to the top of your hat, there it is all finished off at the top. I know I've shown these in a couple of my videos before, but I really love them. These fuzzy pom-poms that have snaps, they come with a little button that you would sew on here that this snaps onto. So what I would do if I'm placing one of these pom-poms on is I would just bring my needle up through here, the top of the hat, and then I could sew that button on. Okay, but with this hat I haven't decided what kind of top I'm going to use. I could either put a pom-pom made of yarn like this, or one of these, or even plain. I mean, this could be a nice little hat plain too. So it's up to you. But that's it, guys. You can finish it off any way you like. So that is the short row beanie. Pretty easy. I really love the way they turn out. Something I wanted to point out is the difference that using a different yarn can make, different brand yarn, or using a different size hook. Okay, this was the same number of stitches, same size hook, and you can see that it's already going to be a little bit larger, this one. It has a lot more give. This hat was made with Red Heart Super Saver stripes yarn, and this is using the I Love My Yarn from Hobby Lobby, both with the 5mm hook. So I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please give it a like, and if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. I am thrilled with the way the channel's going and the community that we're developing here. I put a post out asking which video people wanted to see next after my Whip It Works in Progress video, and this hat was one that was suggested, so I thought I would go ahead and put this together and share it with you. So thanks again for watching, and I really do appreciate your support, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.